you can still drive down and visit customer service and make some inquiries there. But if you do, in fact, receive a text message claiming to be from Cayman National Bank or any other bank, delete it is the recommendation coming from the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service. But never, ever, ever provide any personal, banking, or password details in response to such messages. If you do, you are simply asking for trouble. That is the warning coming from the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service Cybercrime Unit, trying to keep Cayman's populace safe from scammers. Turning to football now, whilst, again, we, may have been critical of the boys or men's national football team at the last World Cup qualifiers, the Cayman Islands women's or girls under 14 team really can hold their head up high. Cayman Islands goalkeeper Olivia Anderson was named player of the match after a series of pivotal interventions that secured a goalless draw, that is, no goals on either side, against the dominant team Guyana at the Caribbean Football Union Girls Under 14 Challenge Series. Guyana needed only 1 point to top the tier in Group C and duly advanced, but Cayman delivered what many say was their most disciplined display of the tournament. The match swung from torrential rain to bright sunshine, again proving that tropical weather isn't just, a reality in Cayman, but it can happen everywhere, which left the field a bit of a slick surface that rewarded concentration and organization, with Cayman's defense holding firm in front of their goalkeeper, Anderson, who managed to make a number of key, if not critical, saves, again, keeping the ball out of the back of the net and allowing the game to end scoreless. Now, Guyana progressed to the semifinals as group winners, meaning that Cayman got sent back home. However, reflecting on her form and the team's effort, Anderson said, "I think this tournament I played the best I've ever played, and I think my team has really done their best, and they could have done, and this game was our best performance." Cayman finished their campaign with 4 points from 4 matches, exiting with pride after shutting out the group leaders who, as we mentioned before, went on to advance to the semifinals. So I just want to say a great big shout out and congratulations to Team Cayman, particularly the girls under 14 national team, for a stellar performance. And certainly, as the article concluded, they left the field of battle with pride, holding their heads high, with no regrets, having performed very well, and above all, performing like a team should as they represent the country at the national level. So kudos and congratulations to the women's under 14 national team, having just recently returned from the Caribbean Football Union Challenge Series not too long ago. I think they came back over the weekend. So bravo and congratulations to our young women. Sticking in the field of sport, but this time the sport that takes you beneath the waves, Cayman interns help divers with disabilities plunge beneath the waves was the headline in an article that appeared on Friday's Cayman Compass. Just a few quick paragraphs from that story. We see young American divers with disabilities and local Caymanian interns have spent the last 3 weeks diving together. Each year, the Stay Focused charity brings the young visitors to Grand Cayman to learn how to dive or brush up on their skills, and this year brought with them more than a dozen of such persons to the island. Several of the visiting divers are athletes in other endeavors, like basketball or swimming, and get to spend a week mastering the new underwater activities of diving in Cayman's crystal clear waters. Each year, Caymanian interns are chosen to work with the young U.S. visitors, to dive with them, and in the progress gain their PADI scuba diver certifications. The charity works with local hotels to accommodate the visiting divers who can use the hotel pools to get familiar with the dive gear that they will be using before heading out under the waves. This year, the participating hotels were the Grand Cayman Marriott Beach Resort, the Ritz-Carlton Grand Cayman, and the Westin Grand Cayman Westin Grand Cayman Beach Resort and Spa. I want to make sure we get their title right because you know how finicky these hotels can get. Stay Focused, which is the name of the charity, as I said, has been bringing these groups of teens and young divers to the Cayman Islands since 2004. The event planned to attract Caymanians to the tourism industry. That's another story. I was wondering how they slipped that one in there. So we, first of all, want to congratulate those Caymanian interns who jumped in the water and helped a number of U.S. visitors, many of those with disabilities. Obviously, those disabilities not really proving to be a hindrance under the waves because, well, again, you're weightless underwater. Your ability to walk is really not that important under the waves. Certainly your ability to float and maintain neutral buoyancy and, of course, relaxing are all very big criteria when diving. And again, it's encouraging to see young Caymanians who either have their PADI certifications or seeking to upskill and get further qualified, leading these dives, instructing these young divers, being a part of the tourism experience and sharing memories with a number of young people that they are not soon to forget. So again, kudos to the Stay Focused charity and all of the local Caymanian interns who participated in that endeavor over the summer holidays. And sticking with young people in tourism, an event is planned to attract Caymanians to the tourism industry. The government and tourism industry will hold an event aimed at connecting unemployed Caymanians with job opportunities in the hospitality industry, aimed at or amid a backdrop of calls to increase local employment. Now, details of the event, which is being organized by the Workforce Opportunities and Residency Cayman, or WORK, together with the Ministry of Caymanian Employment and Immigration and the Cayman Islands Tourism Association, are still being finalized, but it is understood to be taking place on the weekend of September 6th and will take place at the Grand Cayman Marriott Beach Resort. Obviously, as details become more available, you can expect us here at Straight Talk to share these details and how persons can get involved. But the event is expected to feature interactive sessions highlighting core areas in the hospitality industry, such as front desk and housekeeping, restaurants and bars, water sports and diving, sales, and events. Participants will gain practical insight into the different departments within each sector, salary expectations, as well as potential career paths. The program will conclude with a networking mixer, giving attendees the chance to meet directly with tourism employers and explore opportunities that best match their interest and their skills. Now, I think this is a fantastic program. I give credit to WORK and the Ministry of Caymanian Employment. This is another one of those reasons why if you're a Caymanian who is unemployed, it is in your best interest to register your unemployment with WORK. One of the advantages of registering with WORK is when job vacancies are posted on their jobs portal, which, by the way, is a requirement under the law. Those Caymanians who are registered will get the first notice of those jobs. So theoretically, you get the first bite at the proverbial apple if you are a job seeker and if jobs come available in areas that might either meet with your interest or your already established skill set. Secondly, of course, by being a registered member on the Works online jobs portal, you also get email advisories on events like this one that is being put on, encouraging greater Caymanian participation in the hospitality industry. I want to encourage young Caymanians, particularly those who may have graduated just back in June, July, earlier this year before the summer, who may have done some internship work, maybe in the hospitality sector over the holidays and got to like it. This is another opportunity to reinforce those opportunities. Or if perhaps you didn't have those opportunities, but you're interested, then go down, have a presence, get an opportunity to, again, see a number of departments. You never know which one, is going to, turn you on. It could be a front desk. You may like to work in a restaurant or bar. You may like water sports, as we talked about a little while ago. Maybe you might want to learn how to dive. Maybe you want to work in sales or other events. Or, and I keep this last because they tend to put it at the very top of the table, but housekeeping or working the pool, picking up towels. Again, I think there are opportunities for Caymanians at every level. And because of the absence of Caymanians in the hospitality sector at large, I would imagine any Caymanian who came out, showed some interest, certainly, had a chance to rub shoulders with a lot of the HR managers and persons from the hotel who will be in attendance. It's very likely you will end up with at least an interview opportunity or potentially at best, maybe even a job offer. So this is an exercise that should not be missed. And I absolutely want to encourage as many Caymanian job seekers as possible who might be interested in the hospitality sector to come out on the 6th of September at the Grand Cayman Marriott Beach Resort for an event that will be seeking to connect unemployed Caymanians with job opportunities in the hospitality sector. If you're serious, if you're seriously unemployed, this is also a good opportunity, if you haven't already done so, to get registered with the Work Online Jobs portal. Believe me, young Caymanians, this is probably one of those online registrations that will serve you the best. It won't be a waste of your time. Not saying that every job that comes available you're going to get. A lot of job hunting is about persistency, but certainly it is a great opportunity for you. And by being a registered member of Work, you will get the information before anyone else. So I encourage young Caymanians to get on board and get involved. 59 minutes past the hour, 4 o'clock, we have to pause, check in with the top of the hour news, but there'll be more Straight Talk still to come right here only on Bobo 103.1 FM.
Bobo.
The BBC's From Our Own Correspondent.
In today's Russia, no one is allowed anywhere near the political stage if they pose a serious challenge to Vladimir Putin.
Stories and reflections from our reporters around the world.
There is a major sense of insecurity here.
More people are coming in from Sudan every day.
From Our Own Correspondent from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
How can we understand the world better?
The BBC World Service is a window onto the wider world.
A vantage point from which to survey a new horizon.
News, reports and analysis from around the world.
Stories we think matter.
Different people from different societies.
We get to the heart of global issues.
News, stories and global perspectives from the BBC World Service.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
Welcome to our newsroom here in central London. We place ourselves here at a little desk right in the thick of things.
OS from the BBC.
We can catch the very latest news from our colleagues, not just in this enormous room, but also from our colleagues around the world.
I'm in the room where they're treating children.
This is a combat zone.
The situation after the typhoon is very complicated.
It was a very tense situation.
OS from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM. This is Bobo 103.1, powered by Health Services Authority.
At Health Services Authority, they are committed to caring for you. They are Cayman's largest and longest standing healthcare provider, offering the most comprehensive range of inpatient, outpatient, and public health services at 9 different locations across all 3 islands.
Across Cayman on 103.1 FM, online, and on your smart speaker. The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo 103.1.
BBC News with Sue Montgomery. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has expressed deep regret at what he called a tragic mishap at a hospital in southern Gaza, in which at least 20 people were killed. 5 journalists were among the dead as a result of an Israeli strike on Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis. Many of the casualties were caused by a missile strike, which followed an initial drone attack. Emir Nader is in Jerusalem.
We've had this statement from Netanyahu saying that there will be a thorough investigation launched into what's happened. We don't know when that investigation may indeed be published, but again, we've had so much widespread outrage, including from media freedom groups who've said that they are seeing a continuous pattern of journalists being targeted throughout the war, and this is the latest deadly incident in that pattern.
Syria has accused Israel of violating its sovereignty and endangering regional peace by sending 60 Israeli soldiers into an area inside the Syrian border. The Israeli military insisted its soldiers had carried out a routine operation. The area is known for arms smuggling by Hezbollah. The courts in the United States have again intervened to stop the deportation of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was wrongly sent to a notorious prison in El Salvador by the Trump administration earlier this year. On Monday, he was again detained by immigration officials who said they intended to deport him. Here's John Sudworth.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia was released from bail on Friday, but swiftly taken back into custody during a Monday immigration appointment, with the government saying it was now preparing to deport him to Uganda. The temporary halt on that action ordered by a federal judge allows him to stay for now. But the case has become a test of wills for an administration that says it's determined not to let the courts get in the way of its mass deportations, and opponents who argue that it highlights a wider disregard for rights and protections enshrined in the Constitution.
The drug lord who co-founded Mexico's most powerful drugs gang has pleaded guilty in a U.S. court to charges of smuggling and conspiracy. Ismael El-Mayo Zambada changed his plea as part of a deal with U.S. prosecutors, who said they would not seek the death penalty. Will Grant reports.
Zambada was arrested in Texas last year following an extraordinary double cross by the sons of his former ally, the jailed co-founder of the Sinaloa cartel, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. In late July 2014, Zambada was allegedly lured to a meeting with one of El Chapo's sons, Joaquin Guzman Lopez. Ismael Zambada has claimed he was ambushed, overpowered and forcibly removed to Texas. Meanwhile, the conflict between the 2 warring factions of the Sinaloa cartel continues to rage.
World News from the BBC. Donald Trump has said he wants to meet North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un later this year. He made the comments at the White House alongside South Korea's President Lee Jae-myung, who favours diplomacy over confrontation with Pyongyang. Mr. Trump repeatedly told reporters he had a great relationship with Mr. Kim. Brendan Busman is in Washington.
For President Lee, there's a lot of domestic consideration there as well. A large part of his base thinks that North Korea and South Korea can be brought closer together through dialogue, which is a much more conciliatory approach than the previous administration in South Korea. He said, in his view, President Trump is the man that could make that happen. And President Trump is very keen to remind people of his previous visit to North Korea, which was unprecedented, and also seemed to suggest he would do so again when possible, whether this year or perhaps next year.
President Trump has signed an executive order to prosecute U.S. flag burners with a mandatory 1-year jail term, despite a Supreme Court ruling in 1989 protecting such acts as free speech. Mr. Trump said desecrating the flag was uniquely offensive and a statement of hostility towards the nation. The French Prime Minister François Bayrou has called a vote of confidence, appealing to members of Parliament to support his proposed budget. The government wants to cut public spending and reduce the number of public holidays by 2. The far-right National Rally Party, the Socialist Party and the Greens have said they will not back the Prime Minister. The Grammy-winning rapper Lil Nas X has pleaded not guilty to injuring a police officer and resisting arrest after he was detained while wandering the streets of Los Angeles in his underwear. Video published last week appeared to show the partially naked musician dancing in a pair of cowboy boots and inviting passers-by to a party. BBC News.
Expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
Welcome back, K-Man, to Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM. I'm your host, Austin Harris. My colleague, Ellio Solomon, is on leave, but hopefully he will be back with us, well, hopefully soonish, is all I can hope for here as a guest here in studios. I am, of course, on my own for the most part this evening. So if you are, want to keep me company, the phone lines are open at 745-2626. Give me a call and say hi, maybe ask a question. If there's a topic you want us to, cover, by all means, we're open to suggestions. And if not, then you can jump on board some of the plans that I have for you this evening myself. Also, at 7 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock, I'm happy to state that the technical problems we were having earlier on with regards to our online streaming have in fact been resolved. So we are now streaming live on YouTube and Facebook, both at our own page under this key search word, Straight Talk Radio Show. You can also find us at the ACT Cruise Tourism page as well, or on YouTube. Whichever you feel most comfortable in connecting, we will be there, as also on your radio dial here at Bobo 103.1. The phone lines again in studio, 745-2626 is the number. Or if talking isn't your thing, you can reach out to us on your WhatsApp line or our WhatsApp line, 928-2562 is the number. And from there, you can either send us a traditional WhatsApp text message, or you can get creative and share a WhatsApp audio note with us on any of the subjects on today's agenda, or you can raise a new subject of your own making. Whatever you want, the phone lines are yours. Just picking up where we left off prior to the break, I think they say to teach is to repeat. And again, I want to remind particularly unemployed Caymanians who might be interested in a potential career in the hospitality industry. The government, along with members of the tourism industry, will be holding an event aimed at connecting unemployed Caymanians with job opportunities in the hospitality industry. The event is scheduled to take place on the weekend of the 6th of September and will be held at the Grand Cayman Marriott Beach Resort. The event is being organized by Workforce Opportunities and Residency Cayman, or WORK, in conjunction with the Ministry of Caymanian Employment and Immigration, and in collaboration with the Cayman Islands Tourism Association. While details on the event are still being finalized, and you can anticipate and or expect that we here at Straight Talk will share more details with you as they come available. What we know so far is that the event will feature a number of interactive sessions highlighting core areas in the hospitality industry, such as front desk, restaurants and bars, water sports and diving, sales and events, or also housekeeping and, again, poolside work. Participants who participate in the event will gain practical insight into the different departments within each sector, learn some of the salary expectations and opportunities, as well as the potential career paths available to them. The program will conclude with a networking mixer, giving attendees the chance to meet directly with tourism employers, rub shoulders, make some introductions, maybe get a job interview, and who knows, from there, the world is your oyster. Certainly, I want to send strong encouragement to unemployed Caymanians, particularly those young persons who may have graduated high school in the latest tranche just before the holidays back in June and July, or any other person who's unemployed and has an interest in the hospitality sector. Obviously, Caymanians will be given first preference simply because the number of Caymanians in the hotel sector is so few. So everyone, I would suspect, who shows up, shows interest, takes some initiative, can almost guarantee at the very least they will get a job interview. And if you get a job interview, then I suspect you will be offered a job unless you're absolutely horrible at your job interview skills or resume writing skills or cover letter skills. But I want to encourage you to begin with. Those Caymanians need to get registered. So log on to worc.ky. Log on to the website. If you're not a member, you can click the menu bar, get registered. As a Caymanian job seeker, the benefits of being on the jobs portal is certainly you get first notice of any jobs that come available in areas that may be ticked by you in the registration process as job categories of interest, or jobs that may fit some of your existing skill set and or experience. But you'll also be notified on key events like this one we're talking about here on the program tonight. So I just simply encourage you, if you're serious about getting employed and you want to, take an opportunity where few Caymanians exist, then the government seems to want to roll out the red carpet for you. All you got to do is show up, and you might very well walk away with a job. And not just a job, you could walk away with a career because, like a number of other companies and industries, the hotel, you may start somewhere, but it's not where you finish. They got so many departments. You can find your way through once you're, got a foot in the door. There's the opportunity for travel because, as you know, many of the hotels that operate here in the Cayman Islands are part of a franchise. That means they have, other hotels in other locations, whether they be other Caribbean islands, whether they be in the continental U.S., Canada, or Europe, even Asia. So again, by showing up, by demonstrating interest, by showing persistency and consistency, the world could fundamentally be your oyster. And again, I'm certain that Cayman work officials, political figures will do all that they can to roll out the proverbial red carpet for Caymanians who are looking and seriously looking to get into the hospitality industry. And it is certainly one of the recommendations that I would make. And again, we're going to be reminding the public, but particularly those unemployed Caymanians, of these opportunities as much as possible as we draw ever closer to the event that is scheduled for the weekend of September 6th at the Grand Cayman Marriott Beach Resort. Again, intended to connect unemployed Caymanians with job opportunities in Cayman's hospitality industry. And sticking with the hospitality industry for a moment, and also with the Grand Cayman Marriott Beach Resort. I got to sprinkle a little vinegar to go with all the honey that I just poured out there moments ago. The cabinet has approved the project that will see some 8,000 cubic yards of fresh sand deposited on a stretch of shoreline in front of the Grand Cayman Marriott Beach. The sand will be held in place with low-lying profile rock structures, and it will mark the beginning of the end of a long battle for the hotel, which has submitted various applications for different projects over a number of years. The project, which includes low-profile rock structures, to help keep the sand in place was essentially a demonstration project that could serve as a blueprint for the rest of the beach. Well, again, I consider this to be a Band-Aid approach. First of all, I don't hold out a lot of faith in this exercise of depositing sand, which, by the way, won't be Cayman sand. I think that's the first most important aspect to share with members of the listening public, that the government and officials, either at the DOE or anywhere else, are sharing. The sand, some 8,000 cubic yards, according to sources close to Straight Talk, have identified that the sand will come from the Bahamas. Now, why does that matter? Well, beach sand in the Bahamas is both of a different grade and texture, but more importantly, a different color than sand that obviously is indigenous to the 7 Mile Beach. Now, I suppose in Grand Cayman Marriott Beach Resort, it doesn't really matter. They just want their beach back. And, you know, by any means necessary, I suppose, will be their approach. But again, the sand itself won't be the same. It won't be the same color. So it will be noticeably different. According to experts, Cayman beach sand is what is called true coral sand. So the same sand that you find at the bottom of the ocean, created, again, by fish and through the natural process, some of the whitest, softest, almost heavenly, like you're walking on a patch of clouds type of sand, that's Cayman sand. There are ways in which to reclaim that sand. Last week we talked to, again, renowned dock builders, marine, what's the word I'm looking for? Marine architect, Mr. McKenzie, who was the guest in studios. He talked about, you know, the sand. Sand, first of all, he demystified the notion that sand goes from Northwest Point all the way down through South Sound and sometimes renourishes the beach. He dismissed that as nonsense. Any sand going on the southern side of the island and South Sound does go towards the south and towards the east, but then falls off the drop-off just past San Quay, that little island there that's, you know, out just off the coast of South Sound. When we were younger, it used to be a lot bigger, but after several storms and tropical events, not least of which Ivan has pretty much, you know, devastated that little San Quay, devastating it to nothing more than maybe an atoll as opposed to an otherwise mini island. But at one time it was beautiful, but past it is a drop-off, and that is where the sand that flows on that side of the island ends up going off the drop-off. Now, if we wanted to be creative and if we wanted to ensure that sand was going to be redeposited on 7 Mile Beach through a reclamation effort, then maybe the DOE, and I'm surprised they haven't made this recommendation, that is to recapture some of that sand that, again, Mother Nature, through her own genius, flows over the edge, and it's lost down the edge of the West Wall forever. Maybe we could, and I hate to use the word dredge, so I'll use perhaps suction or some other means of pulling that sand up, putting on a barge, and then repopulating the sand on 7 Mile Beach. Might be, if we are going to suggest that, you know, beach replenishment on the beach side is the right idea. I do not subscribe to it. I believe that whatever you deposit will be washed away again through the usual flow of beach erosion, particularly as we are in a hurricane season so far. Knock on wood, I'm grateful that it's been a quiet season, but we could see a tropical storm come close to our area later on this week or into next weekend if the spaghetti models, at least one of them, hold true. Again, we don't know this to be the case, but we have seen occasions in the past where strong tropical storms create just as much wave action and wave surge as hurricanes do. So we may be engaging in an exercise that is for naught. Also, I don't know, I'm suspect about this whole rock wall that's meant to hold this sand in place. Again, speaking to experts, so they're going to put a rock wall, and it's going to be horizontal to the beach. So it will be literally in the form of a wall, albeit in the water. And that, according to the experts, is no different than building your pool deck close to the swim area, which arguably caused the beach erosion in the first place. And I say this, I'm looking forward to proving it because I was able to see some pictures circa 1990s of the Grand Cayman Marriott, how it was and how much beach that was there. And again, I'm older than, the average tree. So I remember seeing it. The young people out there, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. But I want to be able to share these pictures. And again, I'm working on it so that I can do it online. But, there are images of the Grand Cayman Marriott Beach, what I call the before and after the development went crazy. Back in the 1990s, even the early 2000s, they had hundreds of yards of beach sand. It was a beautiful beach, but it was also before they started moving their pool deck closer to the sea wall, before they started moving their pool, before they started moving, their little beach or beach bar and all the things that are in place now at the Marriott. Side by side, I want to place a picture of what the Marriott looks like today. And you will see with your own two eyes how close that concrete and steel has now gotten to the shoreline, and arguably what is contributing. I'm not saying it's the only reason, but I suspect it is a major contributing factor behind the beach erosion in the first place. And that is a problem that's going to keep going. Now, when I speak to, again, naval experts, persons who have shoreline experience, and again, we just had one of those guests in studios, what we should be doing if we're going to insist on a rock wall is not a straight or horizontal line, but what is called oblique lines. Now, that's the technical term for the line, for the type of line. But these are lines that would otherwise take on almost a diagonal approach, and they would be placed one on the left boundary of the property and the right boundary of the property directly in front of the beach, creating somewhat of an alleyway, so that when Mother Nature does her thing on 7 Mile Beach, as it consistently has done, and we use the Cayman Islands Public Beach just as a recent example. A few months ago, Public Beach also witnessed major beach erosion. But if you go to Public Beach today, you will find that erosion a thing of the past because they have beautiful sandy beach once again. Mother Nature, working her magic, takes away and brings back. And if the hotel were to establish these oblique rock walls, not in a horizontal nature, not directly trying to protect this beach sand from washing away, which I think is an exercise in futility, but instead created a corridor that would otherwise encourage and likely retain this beach sand that Mother Nature brings back, that might be a more proactive and arguably effective approach. But again, the same people I'm talking to, I would assume and presume that the Marriott is speaking to. And when I consider what the Marriott are being charged for their coastal works permit, I don't even want to say the amount. It is so obscene. But they're going to pay an obscene. And when I say obscene, I mean obscene. It should be X-rated, the amount of money that the Marriott Grand Cayman Beach Resort are going to be charged for their coastal works license in an attempt to save their property. And again, if they go about doing it the way they say they're going to do it, with sand that does not belong in the Cayman Islands, is not native to the Cayman Islands, does not feel like Cayman Islands 7 Mile Beach sand, does not look like Cayman Islands 7 Mile Beach sand, and more importantly, 8,000 cubic yards and is not going to be there by Christmas, then clearly you might want to reconsider your approach, because for the amount of money that is being expected of the Grand Cayman Marriott Beach Resort, and believe me when I tell you, it is obscene money, then again, you want to make sure that whatever approach you use is one that works. And again, I'm very dubious about the approach of depositing sand. I'm very dubious about its ability to remain in place. I don't believe the reef ball approach or this what do they call it? Low-profile rock structure that is planned to be put in place, because that's going to be on the beach side as well. Arguably, it's going to get in the way of beach walkers, so a couple of buck-toe opportunities there. Who wants that when you walk the beach? But that's all right. The buck-toe will be the least of your worries, because you'll feel the crunch of the beach sand as you walk on it, and not quite like the otherwise cloud-like feel you get when walking on the rest of traditional 7 Mile Beach. And that is simply a fact that Bahamas sand is different from Cayman sand. Now, the technical expert with whom I spoke to provided me with the technical description of the Bahama sand as compared to the true coral sand that is indigenous to the Cayman Islands, but I don't remember what it was. It's like these medical doctors. Why does pharmaceutical medicines all have to sound, that they're Russian in nature? Who pronounces these things? And illnesses for the same reason. I don't get it, but I guess it's meant to justify the profession. I don't get it. But likewise, they gave me some name. I don't remember the name. If the person who gave me the direction is listening, then by all means, shoot me a message. I would love to hear it and share it with the listening audience. But again, I'm dubious about the solution. But one thing's for certain, Cayman Marriott are going to spend a whole lot of money for an idea that arguably won't last at all. So again, those are just my thoughts. Turning to WhatsApp, I do have a message on this regard. It says, good afternoon, Mr. Harris. A failure to respect the natural vegetation line has been the predominant factor in beach erosion. Those places that have built landward on the natural vegetation line, for example, i.e. Islands Club, Villas of the Galleon, have nice, wide, beautiful beaches. Everyone else who have encroached a little closer to the shoreline, again, we used Coral Beach, we used the Royal Palms, we've got Coral Reef Resort, I think that's the name of it, Cayman Reef Resort right next to it, and of course next to that is the Marriott. So ultimately, those of us are, well, frankly, we're all to blame because the government allowed that development to take place. The developers themselves continued to encroach closer and closer to the waterline, but yet we then have the nerve to act as if this beach erosion is happening for the first time. Again, I do not believe that the proposed solution will work. And if I were the Grand Cayman Marriott Beach Resort, and if I was paying what they're being asked to pay for coastal works license, I'd want to ensure that at the very least, it is something that is done one time and done, one time that has a chance of staying in place, and also one time that has an opportunity to take advantage of Mother Nature's genius, as opposed to putting even more structures, this time a low rock profile wall, in the way of Mother Nature. If you haven't learned anything, Mother Nature, well, it will move things out of the way that you presumably previously thought was immovable. Don't believe me? Wait for it. Mother Nature will show you. 29 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. It's the time in studios. We do need to pause, take a short commercial break. The phone lines are open, however, at 745-2626. Give me a call if you got a comment on this subject, or you can reach out to our WhatsApp line, 928-2562. We'll be right back with more Straight Talk right here on Bobo 103.1 FM.
More Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio coming up. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Bobo 103.1.
Drinking water is vital to our health. At Cayman Water, we use reverse osmosis desalination to ensure safe drinking water. A semi-permeable membrane allows fresh water to pass through, blocking out contaminants. Then, we finish with a post-treatment process and conduct frequent extensive testing to ensure that you get healthy drinking water with an average pH of 7. Not only is water out of your tap safe to drink, it's approximately 400 times less expensive than bottled water. Help to reduce plastics and save our planet. Cayman Water cares. Learn more at CaymanWater.com.
With you in mind, we have your style. Find what you need down every aisle. You want saving, selection, and quality. That's why we're your home store. Home store. The way to make a home.
When you're on the go, the experienced team at Foster's Pharmacy are here to help. Drop off your prescription while you shop or WhatsApp us and we'll prepare it, ready for your arrival.
Whether you need prescription or over-the-counter medications, blood glucose testing, or advice on vitamins and supplements, we're here early in the morning to late at night. Both of our locations at our Camana Bay and airport stores are open 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., Monday to Saturday.
For more info, visit fosters.ky/pharmacy. Foster's Pharmacy. Better health because we care.
K-Man, Units is here, the island's newest move-in and storage solution. Our robot delivery system allows you to put your unit almost anywhere while providing level loading, uploading, and minimizing shifting. What's even better, no time constraints. Pack at your own pace for moving or store as long as you need. Short-term or long-term, at the home or on the job site. Units, fast, safe, and secure. Check us out at units.ky and be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
The Office Hero. To claim this title, you have to make an exceedingly wise decision. Do something that benefits staff, impresses clients, all while keeping expenses low. Are you ready to be the Office Hero? Here's what to do. Call Hughes Cleaning Service. Hughes Cleaning Service will make your office shine and you a hero. Dusting, vacuuming, windows, sanitizing, and more. Hughes expert cleaners will make your office a healthy, immaculate, impressive workspace. Call 949-0734. Visit hughes-janitorial.com. Hughes, you get more than clean.
We need to talk. Okay. We've noticed you've been going to KFC a lot more than usual lately. And
that's fine. We know you love it.
We just don't understand how you can afford it.
The KFC What a Deal menu starting at just $3. Gives you lots of great choices and value. Available at KFC Baytown Plaza, Shedden Road, and in the Strand. The KFC What a Deal value meals. The deal everyone should know about. Come to KFC and enjoy a variety of tasty choices at surprising prices. KFC, so good.
Across Cayman on FM, online, and on your smart speaker. This is Bobo 103.1, powered by Health Services Authority, committed to caring for you. The views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome back, K-Man, to more Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM. I'm your host, Austin Harris. My colleague and co-host Ellio Solomon is on leave. The phone lines are open. 745-2626 is the number. If you want to be a part of the conversation, maybe you've got an opinion on my last topic that we were chatting on prior to the break, talking about the go-ahead that the Grand Cayman Marriott has received to deposit some 8,000 cubic yards of fresh sand on a stretch of shoreline in front of their property as a means of potentially restoring their erosion-ravaged beach. Again, I'm very dubious about this project actually having long-term success. I believe we are going to deposit, as somebody said, can you believe it? We're bringing sand to the beach, of all things. And it's not even Cayman sand. It's sand coming from the Bahamas, which will have both a different texture and a different color. So it will be noticeable. But I suppose in Grand Cayman Marriott's beach standpoint, anything to have a beach back in their front yard is better than perhaps the yacht club approach that they seem to have going for them right now. Again, I'm dubious about the solution. I don't believe it is a long-term solution. I believe Mother Nature will sweep it away just like it has swept away everything else. The problem is the setbacks. Until we move that property and some of its otherwise development past the vegetation line, past the high water mark, you know, again, as a writer to the program stated, every property that have ignored the vegetation line, have ignored the high water mark, trying to get closer and closer and closer to the water line, today has no beach. And again, though, we use the example, look at the Indigo. Look at even the Kimpton, for goodness sakes. They've moved their structures further back, and as a result, they have beautiful beach, and that beach is probably going to be there for life. Why is it that we think that somehow, things will operate differently if we wish in one hand and want in the next? We can wait to see which one fills up first. But yeah, we are literally bringing sand to the beach in this proposed idea of depositing 8,000 cubic yards as a long-term solution, which I am dubious about. I'm also dubious about the low-lying rock formation that is intended to keep the beach in place when perhaps, I'm not saying a rock formation might not be part of the solution, but a rock formation perhaps of a different design, straight diagonal lines, one on either side of the right and left boundaries of the property, starting at the shoreline and pushing out towards, certainly past the swim area and snorkel area, creating a bit more of a parallel alleyway that would otherwise encourage Mother Nature as she returns sand as part of her natural, sediment movement up the beach, and also by blocking both the right and left side would also discourage that same sand exiting, whether it be doing storm surge or other unwanted wave action. It's just my opinion, and again, it's not even my opinion, it's opinion that I would consider a learned opinion, because I've asked people who otherwise should know about this. And again, if I was a Grand Cayman Marriott Beach, and again, if I told you how much money the government is going to charge that poor hotel for that coastal work license, some of you would say, yeah, that's right. They go and destroy the beach, destroyed everything. You should make them pay more. Well, maybe you might be excited, but certainly the beach is an important part of their draw. They haven't had it for a while. They're looking, literally grabbing at straws for solutions. And this deposit of 8,000 cubic yards, in my opinion, and the opinion of others, isn't that solution. But if I was spending as much money as they had to spend on a coastal works license, I'd want to make sure that whatever I'm doing has the greatest chance of working, as opposed to, again, being washed away like the rest. If you have an opinion, a comment on the whole issue of beach erosion, maybe you can help explain what the DOE recommendations actually mean. Why are we bringing in sand? That's the other thing. Why are we bringing in sand from the Bahamas? Why are we not trying to reclaim sand from Cayman's own territorial waters, arguably sand that is being naturally washed over the wall just past San Cay on the south side of the Cayman Islands? Again, these things are facts. You just have to know who to ask. You just have to know what reports to read. We had a guest in studios that had, 2 binders that have to be at least 6 inches thick, each of them. And there was a third one just as thick. So, there's some documented proof out there that answer a lot of the negative, I call it outright lies. And certainly we heard a lot of them during the cruise port referendum. One of them is that you build a port, you're going to lose 7 Mile Beach. Lie. There's no truth to that. Those persons cannot point to a single evidence-based study that proves it, and they know it. Whereas, of course, on the other side, there is absolute ample room for the evidence that exists as it relates to the movement, of sediment, and arguably the movement of current along Cayman's leeward side of the island. Leeward? I think it's the leeward. Yeah, the leeward side is what it's called. So again, there's just so much that we don't know, so much that we could know if we, really wanted to look, but we continue to allow ourselves to be blindly led, the blind leading the blind down the road of destruction. And also, interestingly enough, the same people who stood against the cruise berthing referendum are now supporting the extension of the runway into the North Sound, but nobody's talking about the ecological nightmare that would create. But again, I suppose, follow the money and see whose interests are being aligned in further development, more and more buildings, which, by the way, I was also taking a drive along the 7 Mile Beach corridor this weekend with my mother, and she made an observation. And again, my mother has spent more years in this country than she has in her own land of her birth, so I challenge anyone to call her not a Caymanian. But she remembers a time where, again, you take a drive along the 7 Mile Beach coast and you could actually see the water. Now, try it. Just try it. You can't anymore because we replaced that scenic coastline view, not only the nice breezes as used to come off the water, but we've built on every square inch of 7 Mile Beach, and not just regular buildings, but tall superstructures. And those superstructures continue to encroach even more and more along the coastline. Should we be surprised by beach erosion? I'm not, but maybe I'm alone in that subject. 745-2626 is the number. We'd love to hear from you. 41 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. What else is in the headlines today? Well, there is one story that seems to be generating a ridiculous amount of commentary, and I don't get it. There's an article that appeared in the Cayman Compass, but first it started on social media. The one in the Compass says, Sir Alden McLaughlin and Kenneth Bryan join real estate company. In just a few paragraphs. Sir Alden McLaughlin, who was previously served as Premier and Speaker of Parliament, and Kenneth Bryan, the current Deputy Opposition Leader, who was previously the Deputy Premier and Minister of Tourism, have both joined the real estate firm Century 21. The company on Saturday issued a press release announcing the addition of McLaughlin to its team. Bryan confirmed to the Compass that he is taking it up as a part-time job at the agency. His wife also works for the same agency, so it's very much a husband and wife duo, whereas the former Premier and former Speaker of the House told the Compass that he had enjoyed being unemployed for the past 4 months, but it's just not in his nature to be idle. Certainly that last bit I can get. It sounds like a good idea when you say, oh, man, I can't wait till I retire. I can't wait till I have nothing but time. I said, I got nothing to do and all day to do it. That wears off and that wears thin really quick. You don't believe it? Try it. It does get boring very quick. And for those of us who are used to working, some of us perhaps used to being workaholics, an abrupt vacation past a weekend, or in his case, past 4 months, or in my case, what seemed to go on a little longer than just over 2 years, it really loses its luster very quickly, and we need to get back to work. But what I don't understand, honestly, is all the uproar. Whether you read the social media blogs, I've seen a lot of commentary on Instagram in particular, persons calling this conflicts of interest. Others are suggesting that the two, one former MP and the other current MP are now siding with the enemy by selling and giving away Cayman's land. And others are just calling it an outright conflict of interest and suggesting that, money laundering and the Anti-Corruption Commission and the Standards in Public Life, who, by the way, do nothing anyway. I don't know. We could leave out the last one. But the other two should all get involved in this. And I don't understand what the excitement is. First of all, Sir Alden McLaughlin. If anything, I would be asking myself, well, he don't need the money. He was Premier for 8 years, 2 terms. He was Speaker of the House for just over or just under 16 months. Both the Speaker of Parliament and the Premier are in the top 3 earning categories amongst Caymanian public servants. The only one higher than that is the Deputy Governor. So for the length of time he occupied these positions, one would argue he doesn't need the money. But in his own words, it's more than just money. It's something to do, something to occupy his time so he doesn't, wither away and die. And I'm not suggesting he's withering and dying, but, there is a strong connection with Caymanians, older Caymanians who retire at 65. They cease to have a purpose, and after a while, they die a lot sooner versus those Caymanians who are allowed to continue to work. They feel as if they have a reason to get up in the morning. They have gotten so used to working for a living that retiring just doesn't fit for them, and they stay healthier as a result of it. But let me remind you, Sir Alden, is a civilian now. He is no longer premier. He is bowed out or retired from politics, and he's no longer Speaker of the House. The Honorable Ezra Miller is. So from a standpoint of conflict of interest, I really, I'm curious. I'm scratching my head. How is Sir Alden representing a conflict of interest by going into the real estate sector? I don't get it, frankly. Maybe someone can explain it to me. And likewise, the Honorable Kenneth Bryan, Deputy Opposition Leader. Now, again, he used to be minister. Maybe he got used to that minister's salary, and now he got a bit of a demotion, gone back to the opposition, which is, in the first instance, a big salary cut. Big salary cut. So, maybe he got used to, for 4 years, earning, what he did as Deputy Premier and Minister of Tourism, MP. Again, they say the more you make, the more you spend. So maybe that's the justification. I don't know. But again, conflict of interest, the man is, the honorable member, is a member of the opposition. He's not a member of the government. He's not writing policy. He might be, and again, I just offer this up as, a suggestion or my opinion. He might not be inclined to, for example, if the government were to bring or introduce regulation that would seek to tighten the belt about those in the real estate industry, he might not be inclined to support it. But again, he's in the opposition. They don't have the numbers the government does. And as long as the National Coalition for Caymanian Government stay together, then if they were to bring a government motion to tighten the belt on real estate workers, whether it be the commission they earn or whatever, then the opposition could not stand in front of it. They could argue against it, but when it comes down to a vote, as long as the government maintains its majority, they won't stop a thing. So again, the Honorable Deputy Opposition Leader is not a policymaker. Perhaps if he was a member of the government, I could understand the reasoning and the arguments that maybe there's a conflict of interest and maybe he shouldn't have alternative employment, that in fact he should be satisfied with singular employment, and that is representing the people of the Cayman Islands. But, there's a saying in this country, see me and know me are two different things. We don't know what his expenses are. Who are we to say to any member of parliament, no, you can only have one job and only one job only? And again, if you're on the opposition side and not the government benches, you're not making policy. You're not dictating the direction of laws in this country anymore. You are contributing as part of the debate process. They say the government will have their way, but the opposition must have their say. But they can say all they want. As long as the government maintains their numbers, when it comes down to a vote, nobody can stop the government in any of their plans. So again, I don't see what all the upset is on this issue of either Sir Alden McLaughlin or the Honorable Deputy Leader of the Opposition taking up roles in the real estate sector. Again, somebody is going to have to pick up the phone and tell me why I'm wrong or why they believe it is a legitimate conflict of interest. And I will just add one more layer on this otherwise cupcake. When we look at the real estate industry, one of the immediate complaints we always make are, like the hospitality industry, where are the Caymanians? Why are there so few Caymanian participation in real estate? Again, they are just simply adding a more, how should we say, recognized name to the list of employees that make up the real estate industry. Certainly there is room to argue that real estate agents and developers only further inflate the cost to already expensive property, because if you're, trying to buy a property that's attached to a real estate agent, you're going to pay the cost of the property plus their commission. Arguably, that drives the prices up. But again, I've maintained that the price of real estate is so arbitrary. It's not based on the size of the development, the location of the development, but more so the current price is based more so on what the property last sold for in that area. So if you got a property that sold for $2 million, then and you're right next door to it, guess what? Your property value just went up because somebody decided to pay over market value for the property next door. That's arbitrary. There is no rhyme or reason to it, and arguably there's no reason why Cayman real estate prices have to be as high as they are. And what is without question is the relative high cost of real estate arguably pushes Caymanians further and further out of home ownership. But I don't believe this to be the fault of real estate agents. Again, this is something that the government can do through greater regulation. This is something they could do in terms of encouraging the commissions that real estate agents earn to be less. Again, there are a myriad of things in which can be done from a policy perspective, which, again, neither Sir Alden nor the Honorable Deputy Leader of the Opposition have any say in. They're not members of the government. They are not conflicted. And neither of them, one of which is a civilian, the other is still an active MP, but they're in the opposition. They don't have the numbers sufficient to defeat a government motion. So again, I don't see it as a conflict of interest. I don't see what all the excitement is about, but maybe somebody can reach out to me and tell me what the problem is, because again, I don't see it at all. Yes, I see someone trying to call me on WhatsApp. I'm on the air, so I can't answer the WhatsApp call. If you want to leave me a WhatsApp audio note, you can do so, and I'll be happy to share your comments live on the air. Sorry, as I turned my head to look at my phone, I also saw a phone call coming through on the regular line. Please try calling me back at 745-2626. Again, this is made so much easier when we have two hosts in studios, but with one guy, me, again, I'm kind of stuck doing it all. We got a commentary here on the beach. Hi, Austin. I understand that sand for beach replenishment has been imported from... Oh, no, we're going to come back to that. We're going to take a caller for a moment. Let's go to the phone lines. Good evening, caller. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, Austin, Mario, Ebanks. How are you doing?
I'm good, my friend. How are you? Thank you for your call.
Yes, I just missed Ellio, but I guess he's doing something else.
Yes, he's working on our online infrastructure in a more productive way that requires him to be out of studios and not in studios. So as a result, I'm here by my lonesome.
Oh, you're doing a good job. You can handle it.
Thank you.
I also just want to comment a little bit about the beaches thing. I also wondered about that project, the Marriott, how that's going to work. Like you said a while ago, it's almost like putting another wall, but they're putting the wall in the water as opposed to on the beach. So I don't know. I'll have to see the details, and I'm no engineer, so maybe it's a perfect solution, but it just seemed a bit odd.
Yep.
But what I do know is that the issue of setbacks and this whole thing you're talking about is managed retreat, and the fact, as I said some time ago, is that 40 years ago, we could have had a plan where we had development that was on the other side of the road, and we had the beach reserved for beach and for walking paths and for enjoyment and sunset, rather than having it slammed with a concrete jungle as we have now.
Yep.
But what I noticed the other day, my wife and I were walking in the afternoon on the beach, and we walked from Governor's Beach, and we went south towards Georgetown, and the beach there is so wide and white and beautiful, and it must be 400 or 500 feet deep of sand now when you go south toward Georgetown until you make that bend where that residence is, where they put that wall, that rock wall, a couple of years ago. And I tell you what, I think that wall was partially to blame for all the erosion that we've had in the recent years since that.
That wall,
and then,
wall they put up in front of Coral Beach Resort.
Yeah, and not in front of Coral Beach, but in front of the old, what you call Columbia, the club there that has now become his residence. I forgot the name of
Caribbean Club.
It's not Caribbean Club. It was called something else. But it's like the Coral Beach. Yeah. It used to have the beautiful royal palms going down to the driveway there. Mr. Rudy Seltzer was the manager of that for years. I forgot the name of it now, but that's now the Dart resident. But they put that big rock wall there. And from that day forward, I noticed that the beach was getting less and less, and now you can't even get by there because the wall is out there because there's no water, there's no sand. But the other thing I want to say is the other day we were walking the beach again, and we took a turn and went Governor's Beach by Governor's House go north towards the public beach. And again, wide, beautiful sand, and seems like we're gaining more sand in that area. But what I noticed, the commonality is that there's no buildings near the water. They're building further. They're built back far enough, and hopefully in the future they'll build back even further from the high water mark. And so that is the real culprit right there. And until, as you mentioned, until we get some of these structures removed and you have this managed retreat, we're going to have a problem. But let's not create a problem on the northern end of 7 Mile Beach as you have in the southern end, because then you can kiss our tourism product goodbye. Yeah. But I want to invite all of our people to go out on the beach and take a walk and enjoy it and see what we can do when we properly plan. And even though we have planned poorly in the past, we can still correct some of this and still have managed growth as opposed to uncontrolled growth. I thank you, sir.
No, I thank you also, Mr. Mario, for taking the time and for sharing your thoughts with us. And certainly, I figured you'd get onto it, but this is another reason why we need a development plan for the Cayman Islands. If, whether or not you're like me and you miss the opportunities of days gone by where you drive along the coastal road and you get to enjoy the scenic view of the ocean, maybe feel some of the breezes, those days are gone. There's no point in living in the past. But we've developed all of 7 Mile Beach, and what we haven't, we're working to do so now so that we'll eliminate all views to it. But likewise, again, the constant encroachment along the shoreline is, and until somebody calls up or somebody writes me and convinces me otherwise, that is the reason for the beach erosion. Until we start exercising setbacks and we look at any of the other properties that we talked about past Coral Beach, past the Dart residence, going further up 7 Mile Beach, they got beautiful beach. What's the difference? They don't have hard concrete structures along the coastline. It is, again, you don't need to be a scientist to see this. All you need are two eyes that are open wide and an open mind to say, wait a minute, I'm sensing a bit of a connection between these two things. But I also, I'm going to try to do it. I have a picture of the old Marriott, what it used to look like before they had a beach deck, a pool deck, and then where it is today. And you will see, again, with your own two eyes, what we're talking about. And this whole beach renourishment plan is an exercise in futility, in my opinion. But it is 59 minutes past the hour of, 5 o'clock. And we do need to pause, take a short commercial break, check in with the top of the hour news, brought to you by our news partners, the BBC, see what's going on around in the rest of the world. But there will be more Straight Talk when we return. The phone lines are open at 745-2626. Give me a call. Be a part of the conversation right here on Straight Talk, brought to you exclusively by Bobo 103.1 FM.
Bobo.
BBC News.
BBC News.
World news from the BBC. Violent clashes.
Thick black smoke.
A tremendous legal victory.
Crucial elections.
Destructive wind.
A search and recovery operation.
A race against time.
An imminent threat.
Flying a drone over a rival team's training session.
Whatever is happening, wherever it's happening, catch up with the latest news bulletins from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
The BBC's From Our Own Correspondent.
In today's Russia, no one is allowed anywhere near the political stage if they pose a serious challenge to Vladimir Putin.
Stories and reflections from our reporters around the world.
There is a major sense of insecurity here.
More people are coming in from Sudan every day. From Our Own Correspondent from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
How can we understand the world better?
The BBC World Service is a window onto the wider world.
The vantage point from which to survey a new horizon.
News, reports, and analysis from around the world.
Stories we think matter.
Different people from different societies.
We get to the heart of global issues.
News, stories, and global perspectives from the BBC World Service.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM. This is Bobo 103.1, powered by Health Services Authority.
At Health Services Authority, they are committed to caring for you. They are Cayman's largest and longest-standing healthcare provider, offering the most comprehensive range of inpatient, outpatient, and public health services at 9 different locations across all 3 islands.
Across Cayman on 103.1 FM, online, and on your smart speaker. The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo 103.1.
BBC News with Sue Montgomery. The Israeli Prime Minister has expressed deep regret at what he called a tragic mishap at a hospital in southern Gaza in which at least 20 people were killed. 5 journalists were among the dead. Emir Nada reports from Jerusalem.
In a written statement, Benjamin Netanyahu's office said that Israel deeply regretted the tragic mishap that occurred today at the Nasser hospital in Gaza, adding that military authorities were conducting a thorough investigation. The first strike killed a Reuters cameraman. The second, minutes later, killed rescue workers and other journalists who attended the scene. The suggestion by Israel's Prime Minister that the incident was unintentional will be questioned due to the repeated, targeted nature of the attacks.
Israel says it's withdrawn its request to appoint a new ambassador to Brazil after the government of President Lula da Silva refused to approve its nominee for the post. The Foreign Ministry said ties with Brasilia would be conducted at a lower diplomatic level. The statement said Brazil had taken a critical and hostile line towards Israel since 2023. The courts in the United States have again intervened to stop the deportation of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was wrongly sent to a notorious prison in El Salvador by the Trump administration earlier this year. On Monday, he was detained by immigration officials who said they intended to deport him to Uganda. The U.S. has described him as a gang member involved in human smuggling. Our North America correspondent in New York, John Sudworth, assesses the possible outcomes.
Where this goes, how this ends, of course, very hard to predict. But one thing we can say with certainty, given the publicity around the case, is that it is now at the centre of the Trump administration's determination to carry out its mass deportations, sometimes seemingly in spite of what the courts say, as well as its opponents' determination to fight that policy, both individually in the courts where they see it as unfair and more broadly when they see it as unconstitutional.
The drug lord who co-founded Mexico's most powerful drugs gang has pleaded guilty in a U.S. court to charges of smuggling and conspiracy. Ismael El Mayo Zambada changed his plea as part of a deal with U.S. prosecutors, who said they would not now seek the death penalty. It appears to bring to an end a decades-long criminal career as one of the leaders of the Sinaloa cartel. President Trump has signed an executive order to prosecute U.S. flag burners with a mandatory 1-year jail term, despite a Supreme Court ruling in 1989 protecting such acts as free speech. Mr. Trump said desecrating the flag was uniquely offensive and a statement of hostility towards the nation. World News from the BBC. Donald Trump has said he wants to meet North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un, later this year. He made the comments at the White House alongside South Korea's President Lee Jae-myung, who favours diplomacy over confrontation with Pyongyang. Mr. Trump repeatedly told reporters he had a great relationship with Mr. Kim. The pair met 3 times during the first Trump administration.
Kim Jong-un and I had a very good relationship, as you remember, and still do. And when I came in, I didn't know him. We had 2 summits, but we became very friendly. Respect. It was great respect. I look forward to meeting with Kim Jong-un in the appropriate future.
Mr. Lee and the U.S. President warmly praised each other at their meeting, which was due to focus on trade. Venezuela says it's ordered the deployment of 15,000 troops to the border with Colombia to strengthen security and combat drug trafficking. The Caracas government called on the Colombians to secure their side of the frontier. There's heightened tension in the region after the US deployed 3 warships off Venezuela's coast to tackle drug smuggling. Botswana has declared a public health emergency as hospitals and clinics run out of essential medicines. President Duma Boko said the national medical supply chain had failed and the military was being deployed to help. He announced emergency funding to restock medical centres. The Grammy-winning rapper Lil Nas X has pleaded not guilty to injuring a police officer and resisting arrest after he was detained while wandering the streets of Los Angeles in his underwear. Video published last week appeared to show him dancing in a pair of cowboy boots and inviting passers-by to a party. The authorities say he was later taken to hospital for a possible overdose. BBC News.
Expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors.
Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed.
The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed.
All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated.
Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome back, K-Man, to more Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM. I'm your host, Austin Harris. My colleague, Ellio Solomon, is on leave, but hopefully he's not kicking his feet up. He is, in fact, working on, again, expanding some of our online infrastructure so that we can present even more details in a more clearer and, again, to a more user-friendly format to many of our online subscribers. And unfortunately, that infrastructure build requires hands-on on deck almost all of the time. So he's doing that whilst he's left me to, as they say, man the store in his absence. So it's just me in studios. But hopefully you are going to be here to keep me company. It is 7 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock as we move into our final segment for the evening. The phone lines remain open at 745-2626 is the number in studios. Currently talking about the beach erosion on 7 Mile Beach and the proposed solution being offered up by the Grand Cayman Marriott Beach Resort to deposit 8,000 cubic yards in an attempt to return that beach. But there's a couple of problems here. Number one, the sand isn't local sand. It's sand from the Bahamas. So it's sand of both a different texture as well as a different color. So it is going to be noticeably different. And I argue that this solution is no solution at all. I think the rock wall that is expected to border the deposit of sand is not going to actually keep the sand in, but like the deck that has encroached on the shoreline, is only going to encourage Mother Nature to pull more away. Again, I'm not saying that rock formations can't work, but perhaps in a different design, linear, diagonal, or oblique lines that start at the shoreline and push themselves out into the ocean past the snorkeling and the no-wake zone perhaps might create an alleyway, a border that would not only encourage sand to come in as part of Mother Nature's redeposit and protect the shoreline from when Mother Nature draws it away. Again, it's not my opinion. I've spoken to naval architects, persons who have experience with shoreline development as well as offshore development, and these are some of their recommendations. I'm surprised that the technocrats in the DOE don't have access to the same information. Likewise, again, I'm not going to tell you how much they're spending, but the obscene amount of money that the Grand Cayman Marriott Beach Report are going to have to pay for their coastal works license. If I were them, I'd want to make sure that if I was spending that much money, that this idea is going to work, is going to last. Again, we'll see what happens. Also on the other side, just so we can throw out the two topics, so giving you as a listener as much opportunity to, wow, that's really loud. I don't know where that's coming from, but that's really loud. Let's see if we can turn that down. There we go. Let's turn that down for now. There it is. That goes away. The other topic, the issue of both the former Speaker of the House, former Premier, and now Deputy Leader of the Opposition getting a job in the real estate sector. I do not see what all the excitement and hubbub is about. There's been lots of calls in the public domain, particularly on social media, saying that it's a conflict of interest. They're going to sell out the Cayman land even more. They're going to side with the development lobby and not the Caymanians. Listen, one of them, Sir Alden, is a civilian. He's no longer in politics. He's out of it. He's neither Speaker of the House or an MP. And the other one is the Deputy Leader of the Opposition, and opposition being the key word. He's not on the government, so he's not making policy. So, again, where is the conflict? I don't understand it. I don't get all the argument for it. And, again, somebody's going to have to explain to me what all the excitement is about. We do have a number of WhatsApp text messages. Let's see if we can take them now. We got at least 2 comments on the beach erosion, and what looks like 1, possibly 2, on the issue of the MPs or former MPs now getting a job with Century 21. Let's take the first one. Hi, Austin. I understand that sand for beach replenishment has been imported from the Bahamas rather than using Cayman's own sand resources. Could you help us understand the reasoning behind this decision? Was it primarily a matter of budget and cost effectiveness, or are there environmental and regulatory considerations that make sourcing locally more complex than it may seem? Good question. Let me see if I can answer that for you. But first, let me just pick up the second one along the same lines. It says, hi, Austin. I know you must be missing your co-host, but you're doing a super job. Oh, thank you very much. Could you clarify why sand for replenishment was brought in from the Bahamas instead of dredging from Cayman's drop-off or other local sources? From the outside, it might appear more practical to use our own, but I imagine there may be environmental, logistical, or cost-related reasons that we might not be aware of. Well, again, both of those questions seem to be along the same line, so I can only answer it the way I've been guided. First of all, we could seek to reclaim the natural coral sand that Mother Nature ejects over the south wall just past Sand Key. But obviously, it is a wall, so therefore it's sitting in deep water. To extract that sand that is going over the edge would involve a degree of dredging or not some form of suction. I can only imagine that the word dredging is viewed as a dirty word or a frightening word to some people, that we won't even explore it. Mind you, it is dredging or vacuuming, if you call it as such, sand from the ocean depths. So there are ways to mitigate against the leaching of any sediment on coral sand areas or whatnot. There are mitigation tools and techniques that, again, weren't invented yesterday, that have been put in place the world over, and arguably it could be utilized in this circumstance. Maybe because of the depth of the water, there is a cost factor. But again, if I were to tell you how much the Grand Cayman Marriott Beach Resort are being forced to pay on their coastal works license, you might say, well, the cost might be a little negligible when we look at it either way on either side of the coin. So again, that's just my thoughts. I do have a caller on the line, though. Let's see if we can take the phone lines now. Good evening, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, Austin, how you doing, buddy?
Your ears must be ringing. I was talking about you a little while ago.
I heard you. I heard you talking about me. I heard you.
I don't understand what all the excitement is, Mr. Bryan. I really don't.
I don't get it either. I really am confused by it. But when people are trying to set a narrative, they don't have a reason for it. They just have a plan. So I can't be bothered to respond to that. I mean, I'll respond to you if you have a question, but I'm not going to get caught up with the rest of the nonsense.
People are saying it's a conflict of interest. I've argued that you're not with the government, so How you are conflicted, I don't know. Other persons are suggesting that, somehow you're selling out more of Cayman's valuable real estate. Again, people argue that there's no Caymanians in the real estate sector anyway. So from my standpoint, you can't argue that there's an absence of Caymanians, and when Caymanians step up, that is all of a sudden a bad thing. But really, the argument of conflict of interest has no bearing in my mind.
I don't think it has any bearing either, but I think what is most important to me is to my constituents and the Cayman Islands to know that this won't have any negative bearing on my job as their representative. When I was minister, obviously you couldn't have an outside job like this as minister because you like you said, the conflict will be as a decision maker. But that's not happening in this case. So that's not the case. So no different than running a business, and there's probably about half of the government, half of the parliament that has other businesses. So, and it's a part-time thing. Most people know that my wife is a real estate agent, and just because the Cerebral rules, in order for you to be involved in any kind of transaction, you need to be licensed by them. It's like a part-time thing to help along with my wife, my best friend. So that's it. There's nothing more to it. I probably won't even end up selling any houses because my main focus is Georgetown Central and the Greater Cayman Islands. But if I have to be involved with assisting my wife in any capacity, I'll have the license. But interestingly enough, I've learned a whole lot since started studying, and I haven't finished past the test, so I'm not an agent yet. So the public knows that I can't do any sales or anything, but I'm learning about how the industry works, and maybe eventually I'll get my license. Former Premier Sir Alan McLaughlin is a full-time agent now. Not the same with me. I'm only doing it for part-time purposes, and I'm not licensed yet. But again, I think it's a non-issue. I don't know what the big deal is, but, people will have their viewpoints. But the people of Georgetown Central know my commitment is to them.
All right. Well, I thank you for calling in and, sharing your 2 cents on the issue. A part of me wanted just to, again, to stir the pot, to agree with the mob. But this is one of those subjects, I couldn't look myself in the mirror, honestly, and say, what is all of the noise about? I don't understand it. Some folks just want to criticize for criticism's sake. I think the suggestions of conflict of interest have no bearing and hold no water. This nonsense about, that they're just going to be, adding to the ongoing selling out of Cayman property and Cayman land, making it even less, affordable to Caymanians. Well, that's happening now. So the addition of 2 Caymanians, be they former MP in the one instance and current MP in the next, aren't going to aggravate the situation anymore. Again, the conflict of interest, should the government want to bring stricter regulations against the real estate sector, maybe Sir Alden, maybe Mr. Bryan might not want to support that. But again, Sir Alden doesn't have a choice. He's retired. He's not in the political hustings anymore, so he's on the outside looking in. Yes, he's chairman of the Progressives or the PPM. Maybe he might want to seek to influence the existing members in the opposition. But again, as long as the National Coalition for Caymanian Government stay together, they maintain the majority. So they could bring any motion. They have the numbers in which to pass it. And the opposition, as they say, will have their say, but they won't have their way. The government will have their way in almost every single circumstance when it comes down to a vote, as long as the government stays together and none of their members perhaps seeks to vote outside of the government motions. Now, it has been known to happen. Sometimes some governments will say, listen, I'll give you the conscience vote. You can vote wherever your conscience leads. Other persons, we've seen it in the past. Ministers are suspiciously absent from the House when the vote takes place. That's by design, people. They did, I forgot there was a meeting taking place. No, they don't want to participate in the vote. They don't want to be counted in the when the numbers are called, when someone calls for a division. Again, they don't want to be present, and that is by design. And it has happened before. It's going to happen again. But the government still maintains the majority, and Mr. Bryan is not a policymaker anymore. So, again, I don't see where the conflict is. Most politicians have their own companies, and that is for a good reason. We've been talking about it from the whole, candidates forum, a look at life after the campaign trail, where we see former politicians being victimized, being, ostracized, being told, you're good enough to run for the country. You're good enough if you get elected, and we trust you with the country's purse, but we won't trust you with a burger or trash or any other menial job, because if we did and we happen to have a disagreement, you will use your political influence to somehow damage businesses. I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. That is an idiotic, insane viewpoint. It flies in the face of logic, and it has absolutely no bearing on reality. And it is something that we need to stamp out in this country, this whole politically exposed person. Listen, there's room for some of the concerns, but not all of it. And this notion that, again, a person can, demonstrate themselves, put themselves forward, open themselves up for criticism from every corner, have every misdeed, every mistake they've ever done, every mistake they've ever made uncovered, but still say, I want to put myself forward as a patriot because I think I can make a contribution, and they're unsuccessful, and now they can't work. It's ridiculous. Those are the laws we need to change. Those are the victimization that happens every day that we need to address. And the nonsense to say otherwise is just that, nonsense. So I don't see what the excitement is, and nobody has yet managed to make an arguable case as to why, whether it be Sir Alden McLaughlin or Kenneth Bryan, the Honorable Deputy Opposition Leader, getting a second side job is somehow unheard of, and now is therefore a big issue for the news. It is a non-news item. It is clickbait. It is intended to attract the mob who are just looking for somebody to blame, and it may sound exciting, but it is pointless. And again, that is my position until somebody steps up and proves me wrong. Going to the WhatsApp lines, we got another message. Hi, Austin. I wanted to share something. No, that's the other one. I want to say, well, here's we go. Austin, I'm delighted to see these familiar faces on the Century 21 signs around Cayman. I'm hoping Crystal Gomez will be up there next. I recently heard her on your show sharing how difficult it has been for her to find employment, and I couldn't help but think what an amazing realtor she would be. Crystal is very qualified and deserves every opportunity right here in her homeland. Go, Crystal, go. So, yeah, sure, why not? Why, if you can't find a job, then not at all, no reason why you can't join your colleagues in real estate. We heard there from Kenneth Bryan that Sir Alden, the only surviving knight commander in the Cayman Islands, is now a qualified, having passed the test, and is now a licensed real estate broker, whereas Kenneth Bryan is still doing the studying and hasn't taken the test yet, but there's absolutely no reason why he can't be the next one. Hey, if private sector closes the doors on all of these former politicians, I don't see why anybody wouldn't give them an opportunity as a real estate agent. They certainly know a lot of people, both here and abroad, and they can certainly use those skills to help them sell property. Again, I argue about the cost of land in this country. I argue that perhaps real estate brokers in general, through their commissions, only seek to further make land more expensive in the Cayman Islands. But that's an argument or conversation we'd have whether politicians are involved or not. It existed before their involvement. It's not going to change because they're there, is my only point. So again, and I don't view it as a conflict, not even the stretch of the imagination. If a government member were to take up a secondary job, any kind of job, but least of all in the real estate sector, that would be a conflict. Why, you ask? Because the government write policy. The government create laws. In particular, the government bring new laws. And again, if they're going to bring a law, then they're not likely to fight against the real estate sector, which I think there's room for regulation, if not fighting against. There's room for regulation. There's room for the arbitrary nature in which real estate prices are set. I think there are a lot of ways in which we can do to drive down real estate prices, but no government MP now or in the past has, viewed this as a priority. So I don't worry too much that that's going to happen. It's kind of like public transportation. They talk about it a lot. They all believe it should happen, but we haven't seen anything, have we? Though I did see a new color-coded bus map, which maybe we'll talk about tomorrow because we got about 4 minutes remaining. Hey, it's a step in the right direction, but, you know, does it lead towards better public transportation? I don't think so. We got another WhatsApp message. Hi, Austin. I wanted to share something that happened to me today. I went out today excited to try Scratch's specialty donuts. Ooh, I don't heard of this before. After hearing how amazing they are. To my surprise, parking at their unique location, parallel to the airport runway, was tricky, and I was wondering how these establishments are going to survive without proper retail parking. Not sure how planning department could have approved retail space without adequate parking. Unfortunately, I can't share the deliciousness news on the donuts because they were closed today, but I promise, I think, to share some of these donuts with you in Ellio. Oh, yes, please. I heard they are spectacular. Well, I love donuts. Obviously, I was thrilled to death when Tim Hortons opened up and donuts were part of their main offering. They're delicious, by the way, and they're open at dark 30, just ahead of traffic, so nothing works more delicious with coffee than a nice donut. I'm just hearing about this new place called Scratch. I thank you very much for sharing this delicious set of news with me. It's something else for me to check out. And definitely want to give Scratch a plug, a little shameless free advertising from your friends here at Straight Talk for opening what is very clearly a sweet new business. And I will be checking it out. But to the predominant question of the writer, I don't know how planning approved a new establishment with no parking. I know that planning has in the past rejected planning applications because of the lack of parking, but this is an instance where they've approved the business that has no parking. Again, there's no rhyme or reason to the planning board and their approval process. In many cases, it's who you know, not what you know. And you can't make this stuff up. I can, pledge to make an inquiry. It just so happened to have a really good friend who I hadn't seen at least in the better part of a year. I ran into him today, and he's a member on the planning board. So without naming him, I can reach out to him and maybe ask the question and see if I can't get back to the writer on the question that they asked. But I don't know how that happens, but I can certainly pledge myself to look. And just very quickly, 28 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. Coming up tomorrow, I want to encourage our listeners to tune in at 5 o'clock. There is a new short film that has been written, directed, and produced by two Caymanians. Asher Lopez and Badir All will be my guest in studios as we debut more information on Awesome Man, a short superhero film produced, directed, and written by Caymanians, and actually even starring a set of Caymanians that I'm interested in talking about. We'll have two of the persons behind the production as our guest in studio tomorrow. So definitely want to encourage you to tune in at 5 o'clock for more Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM. I'm your host, Austin Harris, saying good night for now. But again, tune in again tomorrow and each and every weekday evening from 4:30 to 6:30 for Straight Talk, brought to you exclusively by Bobo 103.1 FM.
The home of the BBC World Service, the most trusted news source in the world.